Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the June 23rd edition of Horses to Watch, where we do a little bit of trip handicapping, looking back at some races from the past week, trying to find horses that encountered adversity, whether in poor rides or trips or negative pace scenarios, and we've got a few of those this week. We're going to look back at 3 races from last weekend at Belmont Park, 2 races from Saturday, and 1 race from Sunday, a mix of turf and dirt races as well. Let's begin with the first race from that Saturday card, June 19th. It's a claiming 30,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime, going a mile and a 16th on the inner turf course. And these mile and a 16th races on the inner at Belmont have that awkward start where the starting gate's actually positioned on the widener course and they have to cross over to get to the inner course. And we're going to watch one of those starts and a horse that's negatively affected by it here as we go to this replay. And you're going to look for the number 7, Princess Pinky, in those lime green silks. And you see by the time she comes into view, she's already about 2 lengths behind the field. And I'm not going to show the head on, but what actually happened is she got slammed really hard by a horse to her inside and just took away all of her momentum coming out of the starting gate. And that's why it looked like she broke about 2 lengths slowly, just because that horse to her inside robbed her of all her momentum. And after that, she got a little steadied when she was towards the back of the pack, and she just finds herself near the back of the pack when she's a horse who, in her prior races, all in the dirt, had actually had some tactical speed. So this was an unfamiliar situation for her, racing so close to the back of the pack and making her first career start on the turf in her 18th career start. And Joel Rosario, he's trying to do the right thing, but he's in a difficult situation here. He was in second to last moving on to the backstretch, and he's going to steadily move up outside of horses all the way down that long backstretch at Belmont Park. That's a difficult thing to do, though, because you've got to prevent your horse from making a premature move during the race, trying not to expend too much energy as he gets her back into a more competitive position. And you've also got this runoff leader, that 22-1 shot, Kiss and Run, who opened up 5 or 6 lengths on the field. So when a horse has opened up that kind of advantage, you know they're going an honest clip up front. So Joel's trying to do all the right things, but it's a difficult situation because she had that poor start and he never is able to get any cover for her. She's moving outside of horses down the backstretch and around the far turn. She was 3 wide all the way around that bend, and she gets into contention here by the time they get to the quarter pole. But the horse to her inside, who's going to be the eventual winner, Jocular, who was the 5-2 second choice in this race, Princess Pinky gets up to her and gets turned away by this filly. But remember, Jocular had gotten a perfect trip sitting in second behind that runoff leader, relaxing pretty nicely behind that horse, and she was able to make her move in the stretch and pull away from Princess Pinky at the end. When you look at Princess Pinky's lifetime PPs, she is a horse that's 1 for 18. She's now had, I think, 11 second and third place finishes, so she does have that profile. The horse was a bit of a hanger, but I think her hanging in this race had nothing to do with some character flaw. It was because she expended so much energy trying to get back into position after that really poor start. So that was her first career start on the turf. I think she really took to this surface, and she's one to look for in a similar spot next time back on the grass. Another horse that I want to take a look at comes from the last race of the day on Saturday, June 19th at Belmont Park. This is a maiden $25,000 claimer going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And we're going to focus on the number 7, Tootsie Song, who's a first-time starter in this race for George Weaver. Let's break these horses from the gate. And we've got the same rider here, Joel Rosario, and he's been dealt a difficult hand in some of these races on Saturday with some poor starts. And the number 7, Tootsie Song, she's in those kind of turquoise and yellow silks in the middle there. She breaks with the pack, maybe just a half step slowly, but watch what happens here. She gets a little steadied back, and she's just going to get extremely rank under Joel. You can kind of see him really far back in the saddle, and in that white bridle, she's throwing her head around a little bit, just really not settling for him. She's also taking kickback for the first time. As a first-time starter, she's probably never dealt with this situation before, with a wall of horses racing just ahead of her. And even right here, about a quarter mile into the race, you can see she's still not settling. And Joel Rosario, to his credit, when he's on a horse like this who's really fighting him, he just tries to get them to settle down. He almost says to himself, well, whatever happens, happens. I just want to give this horse an education and get her to settle behind horses. And he ultimately does accomplish it by the time they get to the quarter pole here. He's finally gotten her to the outside of horses and gotten her into a better rhythm, but he's already given up a lot of ground by this point. She's already back in about 9th or 10th place here, and he's trying to get her to finish now. He takes her to the outside. She's going to duck in a little bit as they come to the 8th pole here. She's passing some horses at the end of the race, just tired horses though. She never really gets into a position where she's going to be a threat to the top 3 finishers here, but I thought it overall was a decent effort. This is a race that came back relatively slow, but it was a pretty low-level race, just the $25,000 maiden claimer, as I said. She only got a 30 buyer here, but she's just a first-time starter that really looked like she had no idea what she was doing first time out, and I think she's really going to benefit from this experience and the education that Joelle gave her. So if she comes back in a similar spot next time and is able to break a little bit better, because she was trying to show speed on the backstretch, it was just that half-step slow break that didn't allow her to get up into a forward position. I think we're going to see her come back with a better effort second time out for George Weaver. Let's finish things off with a race from the Sunday card at Belmont. That was the June 20th card. Race 7. This is a non-winners of one other than allowance race going 6 furlongs on the turf. Let's break these horses from the gate, and I'm going to focus on the number 5, Lady Petrol. This is a horse who had began her career last year up at Woodbine in Mark Cassie's barn, and this was going to be her first start for Chad Brown as a 3-year-old coming off a layoff. Now, this is a race that features an extremely slow pace, and Lady Petrol doesn't really have any trouble in the running with regard to traffic, but the pace of this race gives her absolutely no chance. And you're going to see the fractions go up in this race, and I have to say, this is not one of those situations like we've seen a few times when the rails are at Belmont where the posted fractions are incorrect. These are accurate. I looked at Trackus, and Trackus had this race going just about the exact same fractional splits for all of the splits in this race. 23, nearly 23-1 for the opening quarter mile. They're going to go to the half in 46-3, just really pedestrian fractions for a firm turf course going 6 furlongs. And there's Lady Petrol at the back of the pack. She's a closer, so Jose Ortiz is giving her the right kind of ride, the kind of ride that she needs, but she's going to get to the outside here and try to make a run. But they come home the last quarter mile, the leaders do, in 22.30 seconds. And it's just impossible for a horse trying to come from last place to make up significant ground into that kind of closing fraction. The eventual winner of this race, Honey Pants, so you see closing from 3rd to 1st here, she actually runs really well to win this race because she's one of the few horses that made up ground. But I wanted to focus on Lady Petrol, who does finish 5th in this race, but she's really finishing well at the end. If you look at track splits, she comes home the final 1/8 of a mile fastest of anybody in this race, even a few hundreds faster than the winner, Honey Pants, who came home her final quarter in, I think, 21.99 seconds. So Lady Petrol was really finishing at the end. There was just no chance for her to be competitive, given how slowly they went up front. And we do see a lot of slow paces in New York, but that was a really extreme situation where a horse coming from the back of the pack really had no chance. So Lady Petrol seems like a horse that really did take a step forward from her 2-year-old form, making her first start for Chad Brown here as a 3-year-old. I just think we didn't get to see the best that she has to offer given that pace situation. And if she gets in a more fair spot next time with a legitimate pace, I think she'll be much more dangerous for the Chad Brown barn. So those are all the races to look back at this week. Remember, if you want to follow these horses in the future, you can add them to your watch mail on DRF.com. Go to Horse Watch on the DRF website, add them to a list, and you'll get email notifications when these horses run back or have workouts or entered in the future. So thanks for tuning in this week, and make sure to catch future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Wednesdays.